We know the Audi e-tron very well. We know that it has a battery capacity of 95 kilowatt hours, and we know that it has a usable battery capacity of around 84 kilowatt hours. We also know that it's going to do around 200 miles in real-world driving, and it will charge at up to 150 kilowatts, which is actually one of the fastest charging speeds you're going to get in a car in 2019. But what about the infrastructure that it relies on? How easy is it to do a proper epic road trip in an electric car? Well, we're about to find out, because we are here in beautiful Bled in Slovenia. We have got 24 hours to cover 1,000 miles in the e-tron. We're only going to be stopping to charge the car. We're going to be covering 10 countries in that period of time, and we're going to end up in Amsterdam tomorrow morning. So, if there were ever a test of the mainland European charging infrastructure, this is it. So let's go on with it. So, we're already winning, and we have crossed the border into Austria, and I have to say that was all of about 40 kilometres after we left the hotel in Slovenia. So it doesn't really feel like we've done very much yet. I think my commute is longer than that. But even so, first country done. So we've made our first stop. We're only about an hour and a half into the journey actually. We stopped here with about 65% battery showing. And already we're up to 83%, and that's sort of 5 minutes after we got here. Now these are the Ionity chargers, which are awesome. Now these will do up to 350 kilowatt charging. The e-tron does 150 kilowatts, which actually works out to about 100 miles of range added per 15 minutes, which is really good. Now even actually on the sort of last 20% battery capacity in the Audi, it's still going to charge pretty quickly, but not as quickly as it can do when you're further down the battery capacity. So at the moment it's actually charging quite slowly. But I have to say, these chargers are awesome. And, you know, we're going to be here 15-20 minutes and we're going to have a full battery, so that's really good. And we can carry on. And everyone's feeling very fresh and it's all going well. And I have to say, if we use more of these Ionity chargers, then I don't think this is going to be any problem at all. So we've reached our second charging stop, and I have to say this stop feels like a massive cheat on Audi's part, because this event has been planned by Audi and I was assuming we were going to use the public charging infrastructure, and it turns out that this charger that we are charging at right now is a temporary one that's been put in by Audi at some obscure airport in northern Italy. And so we are charging at 150 kilowatts now, which is all very nice. But obviously, if you're not part of the Audi party, then you don't get this, and that's rubbish. So I'm just looking on the screen here at what the public chargers are around here, and basically there is one 10 kilometres up the road, but that's a 50 kilowatt, and even the next nearest two, which are 181 kilometres away, or 116 kilometres, if you want a CCS charger anyway, both are 50 kilowatt chargers, and they're miles and miles and miles away. It's not good, is it? I mean, the infrastructure here in Italy just isn't good, and if you want to do this trip, it's going to be a huge problem. So I don't think it's reasonable to say that actually, you know, you could do this without serious planning already at this point. But what I would say is that the e-tron is doing really, really well. So I mean, we haven't even used not even 50% of the battery in the last stretch, which was a good sort of, you know, 2.5 hours and something like, I think about 150 kilometres, something like that. So we're doing really well in terms of range and efficiency, loads of regen on the way down out of the mountains, so we've done really well. So Audi's being very conservative in how often it's stopping. What I would say is we had to stop anyway because we all needed the loo and we needed coffee. So the car is definitely outperforming the people driving it, and that's a good point to make. Even so, this charging here, this is cheating. Okay, so we are on the road again after Audi's very cheaty temporary charging point. The e-tron is doing mighty fine. It's actually doing around about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency at the moment, which is slightly better than we've seen from our long-term car. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that coming down out of the Dolomites, we actually used a lot of brake regen, and so that kind of upped it a bit. So we're doing really well on that front. And I mean, it's just such a nice car to drive. It's so perfect for this kind of thing. So it's all going really well. So next stop, we're going to dip into Austria, and then we're going to head into Switzerland. We are getting on for 400 kilometres into the journey. We're nearly 7 hours into the journey. I can't be bothered to decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think we're vaguely on track. So we're all good. Onwards. The Timmelsjoch Pass is a high alpine mountain road that serves as a winding link between the Austrian and Italian borders. Its peak altitude is at some 2,500 metres, which explains why the upper reaches of it were completely hidden in cloud when we drove through. The bits we could see, however, were breathtakingly beautiful, and while this fairly extreme mountain pass highlighted the Audi's heavy handling, it is worth driving this epic alpine road regardless of the car you're in. However, mountain roads tend not to be the fastest way to cover distance, as we were about to find out. So we have just left our third charging stop, and I've been doing a bit of maths and I'm a little bit worried because we are now pushing on for 11.5 hours into the drive, so getting on for halfway through, and yet we haven't even covered 600 kilometres yet. So we've got well over 1,000 kilometres still to do. So I'm a bit worried that we might have lost quite a bit of time doing all the twisty roads up through the mountains, which were well worth doing, but we have got a lot of mileage to cover in not a huge amount of time now, and it's pushing on through the night, of course. So we're going to have to see how we get on. And in the meantime, as you can see, I'm not actually driving now. I'm in the back and I'm going to have a little rest. I've got my big corny, essential for all European road trips, and my enigmatic co-driver, who you will never have seen before and has never appeared on YouTube, and nobody knows who he is, and he's not allowed to say anything because he'll charge us a fortune if he does. So he's driving in the meantime, and like I said, I'm going to hole up in the back here and probably try and get a bit of shut-eye, and we'll see how we get on. I never really got used to the Audi's virtual mirrors. Call me a dinosaur if you will, but I prefer standard mirrors. However, in low light, the camera feed in the Audi is remarkably clear, with exceptional colour contrast and clarity that does help to ease the long nighttime miles. Alright, so it is 1 in the morning. I think everybody's descended into that slightly delirious sort of state you get into in drives like this. But anyway, I'm going to actually tell you some useful information. So we are charging at the moment at a charger which is provided by a company called Allego, which is another of the rapid charger providers that you get in Europe, along with Fastned and Ionity, who we've really relied on very heavily for this trip. And they've all been really reliable. So if we gloss over Audi's very cheaty, sort of corporately provided temporary charger that they're putting in Italy, which proves to be the worst country by far for fast charging and a public infrastructure, everywhere else has been really, really good actually, and very reliable. All the chargers have worked really, really well and have charged very quickly indeed. So that is all good news. How much is it costing, I hear you ask? Well, we reckon it's probably cost so far about 45 euros, because Ionity's €8.50 flat rate, whereas this one's €9 just over. You do pay per kilowatt hour in the other countries, but for now we're going to calculate it based on that, which means about 45 euros, which is good, because we have covered about 1,000 kilometres already, and by the time we've got this charge, which I have factored into that calculation, we'll have another 300 kilometres or so on the range. So, onwards to somewhere else, I think probably France, I don't know. And it's much too late and they're playing weird music in this garage, so we might as well get in the car and carry on, I think. Overnight, we crossed Liechtenstein and into France, where human error and French roadworks saw us lose yet more time that we didn't have. Another Ionity fast charge, many fast free-flowing German autobahn miles, and a quick dawn drive through Luxembourg and into Belgium saw our deadline looming. Well, the clock has just ticked over 8:30, which makes it 24 hours since we left Bled in Slovenia. And I'm afraid the bad news is that we have not quite managed it. I think the main problem was that we suffered a nightmare of closed motorways and deviations in France last night, and that really did set us back quite badly. So we have done, in 24 hours, 1,444 kilometres. We have covered 9 countries. Do you know what? I'm still reasonably proud of that. I think Me and my enigmatic co-driver have done a good job. It's been a really good drive. And the really annoying thing is that we're literally probably about 40-50 kilometres from the border with the Netherlands. So we're actually really close to doing the 10 countries in 24 hours, so it's a real frustration. In terms of the charging, which for us of course was a significant part of this test, it's been really good. We haven't had any problems with this car at all. The public chargers we've used have been absolutely reliable. I consider this a success. I would love to have done the full 10 countries. I'm a bit gutted that we missed out on that because we're really close to it. But it's been a bit of an epic journey. It's been very scenic. The car has been awesome. I think I have newfound respect for the e-tron actually. But at this point, at 8:30, 24 hours after we left, I have to say we've not quite done it. And there you have it. In the end, our car covered over the target 1,600 kilometres and reached Amsterdam just after 10 a.m. It had been on the move for 22 hours, had been charging for some 3.5 hours, and had returned overall efficiency of 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Not 10 countries in 24 hours then, but for now, 9 will do. In the end, it was human error and tiredness that caused the only issues, so it's fair to say that the electric car and the fast charging infrastructure can already outperform us. Even so, the electric car road trip is still an exercise in planning as well as endurance, but the number of rapid chargers like those provided by Ionity is set to double to over 400 across Western Europe by mid-2020. Distance driving for battery cars is only going to get easier. Head to DrivingElectric.com for all of the electric and hybrid car advice, news and reviews you could possibly want. And check us out on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. While you're here, don't forget to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel.